do like this. Hi everybody, my name is Magnus Svensson. I come from a company in Sweden called Eyevinn Technology. We're a consultancy company, independent consultancy company, mainly focusing on streaming technology and a bit of strategy as well. We're working with the major broadcasters and operators and technology vendors in Sweden, helping them with solution architecture, design development, and advice, strategical advice. We're also doing parts of like technical due diligences and solution audits and things like that to help our customers. What I will talk about today is actually a topic that was mentioned in the morning or just before lunch, that cooperation between broadcasters and operators to cooperate around how to insert ads in a streaming simulcast or VOD stream. And it started, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, where the broadcasters in Sweden started to look into the growing amount of simulcast streams they had, and especially coming from the distributors, because there are no way that they at that point couldn't monetize on the ads that were sent to the viewers in the simulcast for instance, in Telia or Telenor or Comhem in Sweden. So these ads were just the same ads as in the broadcast streams, but not monetized at all. What they did in Sweden was that they thought of, okay, let's not do this single one. Each broadcaster have their own standards of doing it. Each operator have their own standards that they need to implement to get this to work. So they sat down, Bonnier Broadcasting, it was Discovery Networks, and it was MTG that sat down, let's do a technical spec together. They invited the operators and distributors, and they got mainly Telia that was most actively involved in standardizing the way we do server-side ad insertion. Telia and Bonnier are now live with this, so if you're looking at the simulcast stream in the Telia network in Sweden, you get stitched ad through ad insertion from Bonnier in these streams. As you all know in this room, the digital ads are sold very differently than the broadcast stream, because in the broadcast stream you sell a spot and you predict how many viewers that spot will get. In the digital ad, you sell targeted, you sell these are exactly the viewers I want to get in, and one of the reasons why we couldn't monetize was the lack of tracking in the simulcast stream. So that is also addressed in this specification. During these 2 years, there were a lot of different solutions discussed, and some of them were that we should share ad server between the whole domain. Others alternatives where it was discussed where we should get as was also mentioned this morning, where we can get the same transcoded ABR streams to use that in the whole network. All these solutions were discarded for multiple reasons, and we came up with one technical specification that now is used in Sweden and is spreading to Nordic, and I've also got interest from the rest of the Europe. I will start going through a little bit on why server-side ad insertion. Magnus touched upon most of these things. Doing the ad insertion on server side makes it definitely less buffering. You don't have two clients or two players in the client that switch between the content and the ad, which make it less buffering prone. Performance, you only need one player or one player in the client, which makes it definitely less performance from the client and the device, which makes it good if it's a mobile device. You have a smooth transition. You have a simultaneous stream coming to the client so you don't have to swap between ad content coming from one side and video content from the other side. It's all stitched together prior to reaching the client. Finally, I usually say that some people claim that if you do server-side ad insertion, you don't have the problem with ad blockers. What I usually say is that it's more difficult for the ad blockers to block the ads, but it's still possible because there are small ways you can recognize that this is an ad and this is not an ad. but it's making it definitely a little bit more difficult doing it server-side. And for a linear stream, it's no real reason having an ad blocker, because basically you can't go back to the live stream until after the commercial break anyway. So some facts that I got from one of the vendors we're working with, this come from YoSpace, that in their deployment they see that an average viewing session of their content is around 30 minutes. If that would be the case, you open up basically 12 previously unavailable ad spots that you can sell. And what they also measure in the whole deployment of YoSpace is that the view-through rates of the ads inserted are about 96%. So the coverage is very good, and then the view-through rate doing server-side ad insertion this way is very effective. So how does server-side ad insertion works? It's basically three parts of the technology around it. You have the conditioning and encoding part, where you basically prepare the content for being possible to stitch commercials in later on. You do the encoding, you shoot in the SCSI 35 markers into the stream or the linear stream. You do the translation if you have an SDI feed with SCSI 104s, then you cut in the 35, you translate the 35. You augment metadata, and you do the automation integration so you know where the ads should be placed. So that is preparing the stream to be able to even do server-side ad insertion later on. The middle part is the stream management. It's where you do the stitching. So you have a box in the middle of the network that basically takes the original manifest and the original stream. They stitch in the requirement or the commercials. They do the ad server request to figure out what ads that should be shown to this particular user. And they can also do the same thing with content blackout. And also they do, and that's one of the problems that Magnus mentioned before, is that you still do see a little bit of quality issues when it comes to an ad. One of the purposes of the middle side server stitcher is to normalize the ad creative coming into the same format and same conditions as the original stream. And the final part of server-side ad insertion is the tracking part and the analytics part that is still done client-side. There are initiatives that even the tracking part could be done server-side, but at the moment all the tracking is still done client-side, which means that you need a small SDK in the client that looks at the markers that they get in and do the proper reporting. I will not go through this in detail, but in a high level, how server-side ad insertion works, as I told you, we have the playout system and the head end, where you inject the markers needed for later on. Where you create your simulcast streams, you have a transcoder, and you basically rip the SCSI markers that are going into the stream, put them in the manifests. So you mark in the manifest where the ads should be stitched in. That is put to the CDN, and here you have what is called the ad stitcher or the manifest manipulator that constantly pulls the original stream. Watch out for markers in the manifest, and once they find a marker, they will shoot off a message to the ad server asking what ads should be put into this stream now for this particular user. And they get the creatives coming in here. They transcode them in the same format. They put them on the CDN. It could be the same CDN as the video content. And they shoot one manifest to the client where they have a simultaneous stream with content and ads. One important part of server-side ad insertion or even client-side ad insertion is to make the segmentation properly done. What you need to be able to stitch advertising into a stream is you have to segment it based on where the ad should be placed. So in this picture, the red part is where you should put in ads. It means that you need to have a segment ending exactly where the ad should be stitched in, and you need to have a new segment starting exactly where the content should go back into the normal video. This is kind of tricky to be done in the packager or the transcoder, but more and more vendors are doing this properly, where they can segment according to where you need full pictures. You need to. Well, one trick is usually the audio, because you have different frame rate on video and audio, which means that in some early stages of server-side ad insertion, I bet that you will see audio glitches and hear audio glitches, but that is solved by having everything aligned properly. There are two different formats mainly used for ad insertion server-side way, and it's HLS, which has come the further. As Magnus talked about earlier, there are very few that are not doing it through HLS. I think 99% of the market are doing server-side ad insertion using HLS. The reason is it's very simple. They have markers in the manifest where the ad should be starting and where the ad should be ending, and some data about how long the ad break should be and these things. And everything is very simply standardized in HLS, so most of the vendors start there and a few have moved on. When it comes to MPEG-Dash, it's a lot, I wouldn't say a lot harder, it's harder. And the way to do it is multi-period dash, and there are a few packagers now that can handle this. So, and I just heard from Ed from Geospace that we have one customer that are live with MPEG-Dash and stitched server-side ads in there. So we're getting there, and that will mean that we open up a little bit bigger client reach and makes that a little bit easier. And final part of the walkthrough of server-side ad insertion and ad insertion is that the normal protocols used to interrogate the ad server is used. It's VASTs for individual ads, and we have VMAP that consolidates a couple of VASTs with, so you can use that, for instance, for video on demand, where you can do one ad request, get a VMAP back with the place appointment for the ads and the ads themselves. So this is still used in server-side ad insertion. So coming back to the agreement and the cooperation that was done between the broadcasters, they made a technical specification basically collecting the technical standards that exist in this area, but detailed all the decisions and all the flavors and variants that can be interpreted within this field. It's a technical specification, and it describes how to do it, and it doesn't describe any of the commercials between the different parties. That is handled outside of this, mainly because we want to reuse the technical part, but the commercial aspects of it is still between the different parties. And it doesn't specify any content agreement or any agreement when it comes to sending data or sensitive data between the parties. The responsibilities between the two sides is that the broadcaster should provide the content, they should provide the ads that should be inserted, they should provide an interface, and this is one of the specific parts of this agreement, is that we invented what we called an ad server proxy. It's a little box that basically shields the ad server from the operator, so you don't have operators calling your ad server as a broadcaster directly, and also for the operator to have one interface instead of multiple to different vendors of ad servers. And it should also, in some format, provide where the ads and where the tracking should be sent. And the distributor, their responsibility is to implement the dynamic stitching part, and they should do the reporting, and they should do the statistics to the different institutes. In Sweden, we have MMS Comscore. I know you have Kantar, TNS Kantar in Norway. That still has to be done. On a very high level, this is the flow. We have the TV distributor owns the server-side stitcher and the clients. The content, the ads, and the ad server is sitting on the broadcaster side. The ad tracker can be on the broadcaster side, but it can also be an independent ad tracker that is used, all specified in the VAST that is returned. This is the total architecture that was described, that is specified in the technical specification. I won't go through it, but as you can see here, we have an ad server proxy that shields the ad server of the broadcaster and makes the interface from the operator a bit aligned. So we got a question, or Magnus got a question just before I stepped up on the stage. It's around GDPR. The legal part and the GDPR part was, I would say, if not equal, maybe even bigger part of the work that we did with specifying this agreement. GDPR is putting a lot of hurdles on server-side and dynamic ad insertions. So what we did was we took help from lawyers, and we sat down all the broadcasters together with a law firm and specified how we interpret GDPR and how we interpret it. We also have templates for the consent that can be sent out, and also how the operator should inform the end user about that their data will be used by broadcasters and all these things. So all that is handled and taken care of, and there are templates around GDPR that can be used if anyone else wants to implement according to this. The data that is sent in an ad request from the operator to the broadcaster is a unique ID. And in the technical specification, we have kept it anonymized. Like I said, this is a technical specification, and in this form, the unique ID is only used for capacity caps, the frequency caps. We have a program ID, the channel ID, what kind of device that is used, the screen size, the location, also anonymized. So you get an area, you don't get a specific location. And one of the most important data that should be sent from the operator is the duration of the ad break. This is because you don't want to waste and flush a lot of unnecessary ads. So if you know the duration of the ad break, you can also fetch ads that fits this. Magnus mentioned a lot around problems and issues he has seen with fillers, where you don't fill it properly, or where you get a few seconds in between the ending of the ad break and where the normal video starts again. These are a major part of the technical specification and agreement how to handle these things. We have fallback scenarios when there is not possible to fill the break. There are fallbacks when the ad proxy is returning an ad that has not been seen before. So you know how you should transcode it and what to do when it's not transcoded. The specification is also specifying when to use fillers, when not to use fillers. And if God forbid, the ad server proxy doesn't even respond at all, we have specified that for live, you should go back to the original feed, and for VOD, you just skip the ad break. So instead of negotiating all these fallback scenarios for each individual broadcaster operator combination, we have specified how to do it in the specification. The main difference with the feed that was coming from the broadcaster to the operator now compared to before is the use of the SCADA 35 markers in the mezzanine. This is the main difference from what was done before. And we have also specified that there must, for the linear feed, there must be a duration sent. And for video on demand, we have specified the file format to distribute the VOD from the broadcaster to the operator. And we also specified a little bit around formats and captionings. And to again refer back to Magnus, captioning and subtitles is one tricky scenario that also is specified. Finally, and the final part that I will talk about is the measuring and the reporting. It's still done client-side for server-side ad insertion. There are discussions in the market how to do this server-side, but the reliability and the fact that you can still get a little bit more information from the clients doing client-side reporting, it still needs to be done. So this is also specified clearly in the technical specification, how to do reporting and where to get the information and where to send the tracking information. That was me. I shortened it on purpose to get a little bit back on time on this agenda. So if you have any questions, I'm happily answering any questions you have now or in the breaks or in the evening afterwards.
Thank you. Questions? Questions for Magnus? Yeah, one at that table there.
It's harder to see from here.
How about supporting all devices? You support HLS version 7, and
You
we
can,
have a lot of devices which not supported yet.
sorry, you can support older versions of HLS as well. It is, in HLS it's quite simple. You have tags, and that is usually configurable in the stitcher. So you can basically listen to any tags you want in the HLS specification to know where to put in the ads. So you can use older versions of HLS.
Magnus, is every player in the Swedish market involved in this initiative?
The three main broadcasters and the major operators and distributor, yes. So they have come different stages. Telia is definitely the furthest. They are live with Bonnier, and they're in the final stage of testing with Discovery. And the others will follow shortly.
Would there, in theory, be scope to extend it outside of Sweden?
It's already spreading, and I've been here in Norway talking about it, and I know that it's start to see interest from other Nordic regions as well. So yes, it can definitely extend. There's nothing Swedish specific in the specification.
Okay, so it could easily be a Nordic.
It could easily be European standards if that is what's needed. I recommend, because this has helped a lot. I've been part of helping Discovery doing the testing. Once it's done between Bonnier and Telia, the testing has been smooth because it's the same implementation, same standards, same interfaces. So for a distributor and operator, once you have one onboarded, you can easily take the rest of them.
Any other questions out there for Magnus? Great, thank you very much again.